All right, biggest primary night of the midterm cycle, races across the nation. One key storyline came to the forefront. Republican establishment successfully beating back challenges from Tea Party candidates, and that hasn't always been the story on primary night in recent years. You go to the suburbs of Philadelphia, the candidate backed by Bill and Hillary Clinton lost. 37-year-old state legislator whose father's a janitor beat Chelsea Clinton's mother-in-law in the Democratic House primary. You go to Kentucky, a lot of people thought this one was really going to be close here, with the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. He cruised to a Republican primary victory.
I fight for good Kentucky jobs every single day. I fight for policies that will make us more competitive, that make our state better, safer, a more beautiful place to live and work and raise a family.
Well, in the end here, the bigger winners weren't just the incumbents who kept their gigs, but overall, arguably the Republican Party had a big exhale after last night after Tuesday night I should say, because this gives them a much better odds to have credible candidates that can win in November in some of these races and possibly even take back the Senate. So the question is, Bill, has the party fathers either moved farther to the right, so there hasn't been that much of a distinction between the Tea Party folks and them, or that they're to the middle and they're just not going to take the crap from the Tea Party anymore, or just that the flavor of the month of the Tea Party, it's come and gone? Which of those three do you think it is?
I don't know it at this point, but what I think and what I hope it is that the tenor is changing. The politics are not that different. I mean, conservative Republicans and Tea Party people are fundamentally in the same realm. I think Tea Parties are more political outsiders. They're not traditionally trained in political rhetoric and the rest of it, so they tend to come across as angrier. What I'm hoping is that the tenor of the campaigns are coming down a little bit so that the angriest person in the room doesn't seem to be the most conservative in the room or the one most appealing to a lot of people. That's what I'm hoping, that it's the tenor.
Richard, is that what we call them, the angriest person in the room? I call it the nut in the room.
The angriest nut?
The angriest nut, there you go. The floor belongs to you, Mr. Brodsky.
Look, that's a hopeful way of putting it. But I think you put your finger on stuff. Two things have happened. One, the whole party shifted to the right. There is no Republican middle anymore, outside of a couple of the eastern states. The second thing that happened is the Tea Party started running crazy people. And I think what you can say is the Republican Party, a choice between a right-wing reactionary and a crazy right-wing reactionary, will always choose the right-wing reactionary.
Not always.
Not this year, always.
This year.
Okay, that's the change. No more legitimate rape.
Yeah.
No more. But they're all against health care, which is starting to be a success. They're all against abortion. Yeah. They're all for guns. Their ideology has been captured by the Tea Party.
Let me get to a couple other things I want to get to, including we go to Harlem, where some poll numbers are out here, and Charlie Rangel, it may seem we threw dirt on him too early. He's ahead of Espaillat now in the most recent poll by a decent margin here. You're looking at the numbers, 9 points. I know it's early, but Dominic, you a little surprised by that?
Not at all. It's the media that killed off Charlie Rangel. Those from the Harlem community that know Harlem and the district know that you can't sleep on this guy, and you never sleep on the power of incumbency. I don't care what the paper said as far as the investigations. He's still beloved in the Harlem community, and he has another Latino candidate still, I believe, in that race that's dividing the vote against Mr. Espaillat. Espaillat will represent the district one day in Congress, but I don't think it's going to be today, and I don't think he's ready.
And how much do you think it matters that Rangel says this is his last rodeo? Do you think there's a sympathy vote here in part?
Not if you ask people like the Reverend Al Sharpton. Yeah. But, we'll see.
Usually he picks it right.
Right.
Rangel is getting 90% of the black vote. Espaillat's getting 60% of the Latino vote.
Yeah.
The ability of candidates to appeal across identity lines will matter in this race. This race is by nowhere near over, but you've got to be able to appeal across your identity base.
If you look at those poll numbers again, you look at Rangel's 41%. He's been in there, what, 60 years, whatever he's been, 100 years. He's at 41%. He's in deep trouble. He may be winning in that poll, but that poll, if you had the election today, he loses in. He doesn't get better than 41%.
Wait a minute. A guy with 41% is in deep trouble,
Guy with
and a guy with 28% is doing well?
The guy with 41% is in deep trouble. That's all he's going to get.
That was very good. That was very good.
That's all he's going to get.
Climate change has proven to show effects on our country. We all know that. Now, it's not something, frankly, that too many people deny anymore. Okay, fine. A lot of people deny. Okay, but rational people don't really think that this thing doesn't exist. So the point is, it's getting a lot of media attention and it's out there, but it hasn't really been a critical element in campaigns. Well, to that end, we've got some money that's actually going to be spent in this election cycle that may change that a little bit. Billionaire environmentalist, easy for me to say, Tom Steyer, says that position is completely absurd here, and he says his super PAC is prepared to launch a smear campaign against Iowa Republicans Joni Ernst and Mark Jacobs, who are both deniers of climate change science.
Smear campaign?
He's going after him, okay? The point is, Andrew, he's talking about spending real money here. The question is, will change any minds, or is this just throwing good money after bad?
I think it has the capacity to change some minds. It can certainly raise awareness and make it an issue that people vote on. Right now, it's not an issue that people vote on because it's seen as sort of a tomorrow problem and not a today problem. But
we've said the same thing, you and I, about like Bloomberg spending money on the gun issue and other issues that really haven't moved the needle at the end of the day.
Some of it depends on how the money is being spent and how it's being targeted and how the campaigns are being organized. Bloomberg, I think, fumbled a little bit when he was trying to back some Colorado lawmakers when it came to guns. It'll be interesting to see the technique that he uses. But who would have thought that the Koch brothers would have had the level of success that they've had in moving the needle and doing it in ways that aren't directly from them. Bloomberg's fingerprints were all over his money and the money that he spent in Colorado. The Koch brothers are going through a dummy company.
If you go to the Adelsons of the world, right, I'd argue they didn't get a great return on investment last election cycle, and a lot of big donors haven't picked up the seats that they thought they would, even if it's issue campaigning or certainly if it's picking out certain races like he's doing.
It's not always about winning or losing the race. Sometimes it's about moving the needle. As we saw with the Tea Party, the Tea Party didn't win any of their primaries, but they moved the needle on the entire Republican Party, and so they moved the needle on the entire debate.
But they did win. But they did win before, not on Tuesday night, but for the last few cycles they won, and they had tangible victories for it.
I think if you looked at the establishment Republicans who won their primaries on Tuesday night and compared them to the Republicans who are winning their seats in 2008, they would sound a lot different. And if you compare them to the Tea Party candidates who won in 2010, they would sound very similar.
I think anything that increases the dialogue is good. I mean, if I'm not against. I mean, money's going to get into politics anyway. All you do is put it underground when you try and limit it. Let them spend the money. Let them make their arguments. They may be terrific arguments. Let the other side fight back. I mean, put it in there. Money is dialogue. Put it into the field.
Let's have these billionaires decide what is important to the nation. Then there's nothing like a
you
good
can't stop
contest between a couple of billionaires to tell us what's right for the American people.
Yeah, but the New York Times, the New York Times is family
You agree with this guy's? You may agree with
this
his message. You don't like the messenger.
It's not that I don't like the messenger. It's that the system is corrupt, even when the point of view of a participant is something I agree with. But this guy this isn't going to be easy. This is a slam dunk. It's not like guns, where there are two contending, deeply held points of view. This is about just telling the truth. And a political party that's so crazy.
No. But it's not just about saying we got an inconvenient truth here. He's trying to drive it towards A, winning certain races, and B, getting to policy.
All those,
and the policy part, which I agree with, requires sacrifice. That's not an easy sell to the public.
All he's trying to do in the first step is get these deniers to say, okay, it's there. Now, that's a triumph of rationality over irrationality. Much easier than a fight about a policy.
He's a billionaire fighting a trillionaire because he's one guy who's taking on the entire corporate structure of America. The Chamber of Commerce hates climate change discussions because most American businesses, or a lot of American businesses, don't want to feel the economic sting from reducing some of the pollution in the room. He's fighting an entire climate in his climate change fight.
In a heartbeat.
I don't know about
bravo to him. The only way you're going to change the position of these politicians that are funded solely by money excuse me, not you, I know you'll have a heart attack, but the only way you're going to change it
Have a heart
is
attack, I'm
spending,
gonna punch you.
is spending money. So when this billionaire spends money for you to say no more climate change exists, that's a good thing.
Did you realize, I hate to agree with him at all here, but we've gotten to the point where, hey, at least there's a billionaire that happens to agree with us, fine. I mean, it's gotten so bad. I mean, do you realize this is like qualifies as like advancement where, oh, there's a couple other billionaires that happen to agree with the position that we share here and more power.
But there's been billionaires and multimillionaires in this game for years.
Yeah.
Look at the Salzburgers. They own the New York Times. I mean, they've been having influence
They're
for
not
more than
millionaires
100
anymore.
years. Whatever they are.
But
I mean, why do they get the influence and it's wrong for the Kochs to have it?
Individuals don't
What's the
profit
difference?
from stopping climate change. There are plenty of individuals and business owners who make a lot of money by letting people pollute and by letting the pollution rules be as lax as they possibly can. Who stands to actually profit from reducing climate change or from reducing pollution? That's the problem, and that's why it's unique to have a billionaire actually throwing his money in
But you know
to
what,
try to
Andrew,
support
we
this issue.
have made, it's not impossible, as I come on 180 on this, but it's not impossible to change public mores on things. And it's not impossible, regardless of what corporate America may think or not, that the public will say, time out a minute here. What are my grandkids are going to be inheriting? Well, we can't do this. It's crazy. Or
Like with smoking.
Yeah.
There was a national effort made to change it using TV, and it worked.
But it wasn't aimed at pro-smoking politicians. There's a difference between fighting the issue and fighting the politics and the politicians.
Once you get TV involved, Andrew, I don't think there is a difference. You're going to
I
have
think
the
it's fair
same
game. It's fair
consequences.
game.
All right, when we come back, we're going to go across the river into New Jersey, where Governor Christie says Bridgegate will only be a footnote on his political career next year. Do you think he's delusional, or do you think he's actually reading the electorate right? We'll be right back with that after this.